Awesome. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Eclectic Soundtrax podcast. Vic here, along with Skunk. Joining us today, Talia Keys. Welcome out of Salt Lake, right?
Yeah, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay, and then just a short little bio that was sent to us. You're a one-woman band, outspoken advocate for social justice and artists' rights, and the first musician releasing an album under the Buy Before You Stream initiative. So the new album, From the Ashes, out on April 4th, pretty soon, and then May 2nd digitally, is both deeply personal artistic statement and a direct response to the growing crisis of sustainability for independent musicians. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing something different this time.
Yeah.
We're pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. I was interested when I saw that. I want to look into that a little bit more. That's a great idea. I mean, that's exactly what I know. A lot of bands or artists, I saw something about this the other day about like put your stuff out on Bandcamp first, and people will buy it. I've done that with things I didn't even release, where I was like, here's a kind of sort of demo or a song I did myself, and just put it on Bandcamp, and sometimes people will buy it there to support. But the idea of it's almost like a two different releases. It's like, hey, this is the actual release. You can buy it, support the artist, and then it'll come out, a month later or whatever on streaming. Because I mean, that's, and we're even as an artist, I'm not too bad about complaining about it, but we're all we know we're getting screwed and this and that. But at the same time, I'm on those streaming services, making playlists and using them like everybody else, because it's practical and easy, even though I still have, like 1,000 CDs laying around that, you can't even play anywhere anymore.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. That's the thing that we're like getting back to is that, of course we're going to use these platforms. Of course we have to play games with the devil or, be on these streaming platforms. But at the same time, we created this really cool thing where we're getting physical copies. This is brand spanking new.
Oh, that's awesome.
Physical 7-inch 45s out into our fans' hands a month and a half before it comes out on streaming. And to us, the artists, that just kind of shows you and reminds you, hey, this is why we're doing it. People care. People are giving you that cold hard cash in your hand, and you're putting it back into what you put out, and hopefully back into your next record. And we just did a soft launch last weekend. I played a music festival up in Boise called Tree Fort Music Fest. We had these vinyls available. I sold them. It was amazing. And one of these one person buying this 45 is worth about 3,000 to 5,000 streams.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So one person,
oh my goodness,
3,000 to 5,000. And
That's
if you don't stream more than 1,000, if your song doesn't break 1,000,
you don't get paid at all.
They're not paying you anything.
You're missing out on that 0.0004 cents per play. Yeah.
So you've got a lot of these really great independent artists that are out there driving town to town, playing dive bars and venues, and not making any money off of our recorded music.
No.
Now we have a way to do it, and It's been so invigorating. Like, I'm ready to just keep messing it up, y'all. Like, let's do this,
I love that you showed a 45 there. I have never done that. I finally did vinyl for the first time a few years ago. It was really cool, and it's just something different about having vinyl and that coming back and that it's cool. People will still buy CDs as like almost like a souvenir,
They do.
You know what I mean? Like, I still don't think you don't need to press a zillion of them anymore unless you're some huge artist. Even then, I don't know. Duplicate a few CDs, have them at shows. Yeah. And then the vinyl though, like, so how how many albums have you done vinyl for?
Yeah, so I did a full-length record in 2018 called We're Here, and I pressed that, and it was a double LP, and that thing is incredible. It sounds the best, but it also costs so much money. I'm like, how am I ever going to do this again, right? So I felt completely overwhelmed by that. But then with Midtopia, who is my new label, they're the ones,
cool, man.
They're the ones who are behind the Buy Before You Stream. Midtopia, they invested in these records. They gave us a micro loan to get them printed. We don't have to pay anything. Right. So I was like, yes, let's make vinyl again. After feeling defeated from doing the first one, to let's keep going. And I'm just way stoked. And as you know, like, you just search for your vinyl record right there. Like, it's a piece of something you care about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tangible music you can
Yeah.
hold, and it's dope.
Just the fact of owning vinyl, and I remember my parents tons of vinyl back in the day, before CDs. You know, it was 8 tracks in vinyl, and so one of the cool things about vinyl was opening up the cover, checking
Yeah.
out the album art, right, and if there was lyrics in there, looking at all that stuff. Do you find, like, did you ever do CDs?
I
at
did,
all?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, long time. I pressed
Yeah.
probably 4 of my records to, I guess you
Okay.
don't press it to CD, but yes, I did get,
Yeah. Yeah.
I did get 4 of them. And they were great too. I mean, that was a physical way. Like,
Yeah.
and I noticed that for a while I had to drop my prices. And I even dropped them to $5, and then people were just like, nah, nah, nah. So I started putting them out, and I said free, but I put it next to a tip jar. And people would start to kind of like have pity that you're giving away your CD. And I would make more money selling them for free than I would for $5. And so, to me, I found my ways that I could still bring in revenue. But really, I like to say my tours are funded by t-shirts. My albums are funded by my vinyl records that I sell. My trucker hats, my stickers, they fund everything that we do. Streaming really doesn't fund anything beyond maybe a couple meals a year.
Wow.
So, and there's a lot of artists that actually do make some money streaming. Yes, that you kind of have to be either in a certain category or on a big playlist. I did land an editorial playlist a couple years back. Made a few $100s, right? Like, I couldn't buy a guitar with it. Like, I could.
I know it's like, actually exciting. Sadly, you're like, woo, $100.
Yeah, and you're like, oh well, it's nice
waiting
to
for
see
that
it.
For that CD baby like number to creep up to the whatever your cash out number.
Exactly. Like, it's like, oh, it finally hit it. I'm seeing some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, felt.
Oh, what was I going to say? So yeah, tell us about this. Actually, backing up. So
yeah,
albums. I apologize. I didn't listen to your new record, even though I think I had a link. But is Need You to Care? That's like the single. Is that the one on 45 right now?
It's not actually. That was just a single I released. That, and I did that one special. I played all the instruments on that one myself.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
One thing I definitely want to talk to you about is just the production, the sound, your sound. I mean, all your stuff that I've listened to on Spotify sounds fantastic. Sounds really well produced.
Thank you. Yes.
And so we'll kind of get more into that. But I was curious about let's see. On here, you've got 3 albums, a bunch of singles, some really cool covers, and then obviously the new record coming out. But that double album's not on here. So you actually have releases that are not anywhere streaming. They're just physical or no?
Well, no, it is streaming, but because I released it under my band name, which is Talia Keys and The Love, they separated my numbers. They separated. So I learned to never do that again.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do have that vinyl record. It's called We're Here. That was like the first big undertaking I made with my band, The Love. And I still play music off of that at my shows. And it's definitely, my trademark song is on that record. But I've released a few since then. Always ended up putting it on streaming. My first solo record is called Fool's Gold. I waited a year to put that up on streaming platforms. I sold that out of my, out of my guitar case for a year and made money back on it and then put it up on streaming platforms. But
That's a good idea.
It was, but it also wasn't because I didn't play the game and my numbers didn't match.
Maybe not a year. Yeah, maybe not a year, but I do think that more artists, maybe you're getting savvy to that. Maybe that's a model. It certainly makes sense for the DIY, the lower tier artist. I mean.
Well, we're doing a month, right? We're doing about a month and a month and a half right now, and it's been awesome. Like, my fans who are my super fans already have this new 45. I'm playing a vinyl release show on April 19th where the whole 12-inch vinyl comes out, and those fans will be the first to get it, and it's kind of this cool exclusive club that people get to be a part of and help fund the next record.
And what's the name of the new record coming out? And what's the vinyl release date? And then do you also have a digital release date set?
We do, yeah. So the name of the whole album is called From the Ashes, and it will be launching on April 14th with Buy Before You Stream. We're launching the whole thing with this album. And then it will be available to stream May 30th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
But right now, I've got the 45, which is my first 2 singles, Glowing Golden and Matchstick. And these both come out digitally the end of April and beginning of May.
Okay.
So you can order it now, be the first.
I already did.
Yeah.
Hey, what?
Yeah, I'm looking at the merch store, and I'm looking at this this awesome T-shirt that I found.
Sweet.
Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, we do. You know, T-shirts
I
fund
love this.
everything.
Oh yeah, that's on the website too, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep. I have to shout out to my designer. She does an incredible job. Her name's Gabriella Hunter. She does everything of mine. And I actually I don't know if you've heard of a really cool place called Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
It's in Utah. It's the most studied paranormal hotspot.
Yep.
And I'm a radio DJ sometimes at our local community radio. And we got to go and tour Skinwalker Ranch.
No way.
It was the coolest thing. And so my first instrument,
piano.
First instrument was piano. Then I got on drums after that, and then guitar in high school. And I still love playing the drums. It's my favorite. Played it on my last record that I released. And yeah, guitar was out of necessity, just to want to learn to sing and play open mics and get out there and play my 2-chord songs and get on stage in front of folks.
Drums are so much fun. I love drums.
I'm
not a drummer, but I love playing drums. And I'm always like, man, if I should just put some practice time in here, like just work on some chops, and like maybe I'll start drumming on some stuff. It is so fun.
I've been teaching kids music for like the past 8 years. I was a part of a really cool rock camp for kids, for girls. And we would have drummers drumming in that first day within the first 30 minutes of picking up their sticks. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is put on your favorite music, turn it up so you can hear it, and find that beat and just play to it. Mm-hmm. And I swear that gets you further in learning than like trying to learn, I'm going to count, and then I'm going to do rudiments, and I'm going to do this. Like, no, just play music. And I think there's this like barrier with music. People be like, you have to be a master. Nah, you can play.
It's like anything in life. It's just, you're endlessly learning, right? You're never gonna, even the best of the best, they're still learning. And but yeah, I know. I think there's like, as a teacher, I know there's definitely a balance where you got to make it fun and enjoy. Like, we're playing music, but then I always try to implement obviously the theory stuff and everything, but with the idea of like, look, you're learning the language, and the more you're acclimated with that and you understand it, the more freedom you have, and really the more beautiful and awesome it actually can become, right?
Absolutely.
But I know what you mean. Nobody really wants to. Yeah, you don't want to sit down and be like, okay, and now the first thing we're going to do is a paradiddle on this pad, and we're not actually going to get on a drum set for 6 months, right?
My eyes just gloss over, like,
No, you got to make things fun.
Music's a language, right? And like, I do think sometimes if you start with just theory, you're taking away someone's individuality of their expression. Like, when I was little, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just picking up a guitar and making noise and turning it up on the amp and messing with the knobs and checking out different tones. And like, I love the idea of exploration. And so I'm glad. And then theory came after, right?
Yeah.
And I started to get bored and wanted to know what I was doing.
Right. That's what I've found. Usually that's what happens, is eventually people go, do we really need to know this? And then eventually, if you stick with it long enough, you're going to come around and be like, okay, I see why now. I see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But you are right in the fact. I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. I was kind of doing a lesson with, and just a songwriter that, I respect a lot and everything, but like, she said something that was just like, I think like it's easy to be snobby as a musician, like, the person that doesn't want to know anything because they think it's going to hinder their creativity. I'm like, I don't really subscribe to that. But what you just said, in line with kind of talking with her too, I do think there is value in that sort of initial impulse and writing. And her thing was like writing a melody and not wanting to be encumbered by thinking about trying to fit it to anything. I want the melody to happen and just let it happen, and then put the song around it. So I think there's definitely value in that, and sometimes I can find myself poking around, and I mean, I don't feel like I've ever been really hindered creatively by knowing theory and stuff, but I think there's a little bit of both, right? You want that freedom,
It's
you
a
know,
balance.
but the ones that are just like, I don't want to know anything. I'm like, yeah. I think the biggest thing why really at some point why any musician needs to have at least some of this knowledge is for simple communication with the band, with the producer, like that kind of stuff. Like I think at a certain point, like that becomes important. You got to understand, like, oh yeah, we're in this time signature and this is a thing and that's a dot, a half note, you know, then you don't have those communication breakdowns. But outside of that, I've never been, you know, some of my favorite artists are not educated at all and they're super creative, you know. So it's, and other guys I like are massive Berkeley nerds who know everything. You know, so it's just,
well, I just think it's are you playing from your head or are you playing from your heart?
No, that's
and
it.
That's my main challenge is like, let's try to connect to the heart and take what we have in our head and make it come out with our heart. So,
100%. You nailed it. That's it. At the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? It's just, to me, that's the most important thing is where is this coming from? Do I feel this person? Yeah. Is this genuine? Is it artistic? Cool. Even if I don't like their voice or maybe even their, like whatever, I can still go, I appreciate that this person is being them, right? Especially in this day and age where it's like AI, give me whatever I want immediately. Robot I think that music, more and more is just like authentic art, right? Is just like, oh, thank you. Like when you hear an artist and you feel the authenticity of that is because there's plenty of stuff where you listen to it, it sounds immaculate, but it's like, never heard this tune 8,000 times before, you know, like where it's just like the, you know, the phoned in lyrics and the whole thing. And I mean, I understand there's a place for that, but I, you know, I understand. And I think that's cool. And I mean, I see that in obviously your music is not, you know, making it, you're not hiding that at all. You're like, here I am, and this is who I am, and this is what I have to say. And that's really cool. I want to talk about your, production. Like, do you have, how much of this do you do by yourself? Do you have particular engineers, producers you work with? Is it different people every time? Because that is an important aspect of things, and your music does sound really good. I would venture to guess that it's pretty organic instruments. Like I feel like I'm hearing like really good guitar tones, like through like the tones are great. Maybe I'm
thanks, you know, that's me.
So I mean, I don't know if you're an analog person and you're doing a bunch of amps or, you know, but
let me tell you, I've made my last 6 albums with the same engineer here in Salt Lake City. His name is Mike Sasich. He has his own studio called Man vs. Music. We've made 6 records together, everything from when I've played every single instrument on the album, like from the bottom up, created the songs, to this working with my band again. And this latest record, I brought in a string section, which is something I've never done before. So I would call myself the producer. I do a lot of the producing of getting all the bodies in the building to make the music, from writing and bringing everybody together to put together the parts. And Mike is my co-producer. He does an incredible job. His vast knowledge of his mixing board and all of the stuff he has, the vintage, you know, amps and everything. Like, he knows what microphone sounds the best for what amp tone you want. If we're going to go with the Marshall half stack, he's going to put this mic on it. If we're going to go for a little vintage, like 50-watt little dirty amplifier, he's going to put this old ribbon vintage mic on it. And it's really cool because, like, I'll tell him, hey, I want this. We're going to do that. And he's like, I got the tools. And we just make this great team. Like, he just lets me explore, make noise. We just try stuff. And, you know, what works. And it tends to work more times than it doesn't. And so shout out to Mike. He's my brother, really. You know, we've just spent so much time in the studio together. And I also have to shout out to my band members because they come in, they bring their flavors, they bring their guitar tone or their bass tones and keyboard tones. And my drummer's incredible. And so and my backup vocalist, like, no one can sing like her in Salt Lake. Like, she really is operatic trained. She's incredible. I'm really lucky to work with the artists I work with. So.
Have you had the same band for a long time, or is it different people that have come in?
We've been about 10 years now.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
and before that, I was in a long time fun jam band called Marinade, and I was the drummer lead singer of that, and that was the same band for 8 years. So I tend to find my people, and we just stick together and, you know, work together. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff on here too. I mean, and there's elements of obviously, you know, soul and R&B and rock, and there's reggae, you know, a lot of reggae type rhythms. You've got horns and stuff going. You've got a lot of really nice, I really like the guitar tones, and then a lot of really nice keys textures. I don't know, Rhodes, you know, organ, little things like that. But yeah, just I was trying to think just some specific songs from your that I was really digging. Each one teach one. I think that was one of them that I liked. Wait, is that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It has a pretty nasty guitar tone riff that kicks off the song.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a yeah. It's just a really great groove. That one caught me right away. The new, well, I call it the new single, but not on the latest new record. But yeah, need you to care is really cool. Let's talk about the covers you did. You got 3 singles that you put out last year. You did a cover of Seven Nation Army. You did I Put a Spell on You, which I don't even know who originally wrote that one. I can't think.
Screamin' Jay
Hawkins, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what a great. I just recently listened to Nina Simone's version of that.
That's the one that inspired me to do mine. Yeah, that's Nina Simone, I channeled. Yeah. Nina's my favorite.
Yes,
so,
she's. I actually recently watched her. Have you seen that Netflix documentary on her?
Of course, yeah.
Very
Miss
very
Simone,
good.
yeah. Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was very good.
And then we did the Eurythmics Sweet Dreams too. And
yes,
that was
and Sweet Dreams, yeah.
Yeah. And those ones, I played all the drums, the synth bass, the guitar parts, the vocals, the backup vocals. And then my longtime keyboardist, Ryan Conger, played his amazing synth parts and key parts to those. So, and then also my studio engineer actually played real bass on Spell on You. Synth bass just wasn't cutting it. We were like, we got to go vintage on this. So, you know, and that's what's great about Mike is he's an incredible musician as well. Like he played on some stuff on the new album. We got a song called Glowing Golden, and he does this incredible country, like Commander Cody style guitar picking on that record.
Nice.
And I'm just like, I love it because we have these cool ideas and he helps me achieve them.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
There was, you know, speaking of that, the last thing I was listening to was Fool's Gold, actually. I listened to that album, and there was something toward the end of that I mean, there's like interesting tonal things happening throughout everywhere. And, you know, like I said, you got a lot of great instrumentation and production. I really think that's, you know, definitely very cool. But there was one song toward the end. I don't know if it was the second last track. It had the I just love that sort of spaghetti western guitar tone where you have really like vintage Fender or like some. I was like, oh man, that's the Ennio Morricone type thing. It's awesome.
Exactly, nailed it. That was the song called THB for Trippin' Hippie Blues.
Okay,
and it's about taking too many drugs at a music festival and what can happen from that. But yeah, Mike is the one playing the baritone guitar on that.
Baritone
really
guitar, right?
Adding that awesome, like,
yes,
I love it. Good stuff.
By the way, if you do take too many drugs at a music festival, you do know what happens, right?
What?
Aliens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Let's take it back. For real, though. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate it, y'all. Like I'm really excited about this new record. You know, we leaned into more great guitar tones, some classic sounds. We've got everything from a little bit of like melancholic psychedelia into R&B and soul, all the way down to country, western, gospel.
One thing you do well, which is really cool, is, you know, you have such a wide palette of versatility. But but there's a continuity about it too. And I don't think that's always easy. Like I do like that, you know, it all fits, but it's like, there's definitely a sonic journey happening with a lot of colors and textures. So yeah, I'm looking forward to actually listening to the new one, which I should have done already.
It's all good. We're excited about it. So,
so you got a few shows coming up. Let's talk about, I know you've been playing for a decade just with this current roster, just under your name in Salt Lake, and then band before that. So you've come up and cut your teeth and been playing around the Salt Lake area for years, but you've also toured nationally. You were tour support for Lucas Nelson. There was a lot of names that I saw that you opened up for, did legs of tours with. So tell us about some of the touring you've done.
Yeah, I mean, we've done everything from DIY touring, playing small bars. I was just talking to Vic before about how we came to Austin for South by. We've
Oh,
played
okay.
the Saxon Pub. But just a couple years ago, I had an incredible opportunity to play over 20 dates with Lucas Nelson across the United States. And that was the best school I could have ever had,
man.
you know?
Imagine. Yeah.
And he has such a great fan base that buy tickets early, they show up early, they wait in line. Like, so I played to the packed house. As an opener, you don't always get that luxury. Right. And I won over the crowd every night. And just Lucas and his team are some of the best people I've ever worked with in the industry. And to learn from them and watch what they do, I just soaked it all up. And I'm just like, yes, please.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats.
You know, really cool life lessons, and also led to this opportunity with my new record label I'm working with. So it was just really awesome because for 6 years we did the grind of driving 14 hours through the night to get to the next show in Austin, actually, from Albuquerque to Austin. It was horrible.
There's no way around that drive
Nope.
not sucking. You're either going to El Paso or Lubbock or out, and it's just like any way you cut it, you're driving 9 hours minimum.
I was going to ask 14 hours from one side of Austin to the other with the traffic.
Yeah.
You're in South by Southwest.
Yeah,
That sounds about right.
You were actually here in 9 hours, but there was another 5 hours of Austin traffic.
Yeah.
This was before it got too crazy, but yeah. So, I mean, it's cool to see my career advance and take it to a more professional level and get to work with someone who, Lucas, if you don't know, is Willie Nelson's son. And just to be working with legendary folk like that was just life-changing. So I'm thankful for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What, lost my train of thought. How do you tour? Do you have a van or do you have a bus or?
We are still vanning. We're doing the van life.
Van life.
I try to tour it, like, not pushing myself anymore. I'm not doing those 14-hour drives. I'm not booking back-to-back 7 days, 8 days in a row. But I tour with my wife. She runs my sound. She makes my website. She also is a co-producer on my records. She's been there for every moment, huge part. Her name is Milan. And we get to tour in our van, and we sometimes camp. We sometimes stay in motels or, you know, wherever we can. But it's DIY all the way.
This being when you do like solo performances or when you tour with the full band as well, or?
Yeah, so the full band really only tours, like, we've toured regionally. We've just played a lot of
so when you
local
did Lucas
shows,
Nelson,
mountain shows. That was by myself.
You.
Yeah,
Wow.
just me on that stage.
Okay, very cool.
Which is a whole other crazy, scary thing, right? Because I'm doing what's called live looping. Mm-hmm. So I bring a drum machine. I got my synthesizers, my keyboards, my guitar, and I layer everything live. And then it plays back to the audience, and it's really awesome and also scary.
You know,
be by yourself.
I do solo gigs here and there, and I've gotten some loop. I've probably tried out like every loop pedal and taken them back, and then I finally got like a really fancy schmancy Boss one that was like on know, used or whatever, and I still haven't really dug in, but I know what it can do. But it's just weird. There's a learning curve of playing that way, and I mean, I imagine it tightens you up. in a different way, you know.
And on the road, I definitely got really tight. But I notice if I have a break and I don't do it for a while, I come back and some of my loops are janky a little bit, and I can't blame the drummer. I gotta blame myself. God. You know what I mean?
I've had some serious abort, situations.
Exactly. Just turn that off right now and just whoop, get it out. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Like, I love it because I get to explore, and it makes it so I can play ripping guitar solos, over my tracks. So
what do you use? What looper do you use?
I use the RC300. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Okay, cool.
Very easy. It's intuitive. You have 3 separate looping tracks you can lay down and take away, and you can layer infinitely on those 3. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I almost before I ended up, I kind of got upsold, but they were like, I was like, I think I didn't get in the little ones where it's like one button. It's like, no, terrible.
Those
it's just
are hard.
No, those are really hard. And then I went and before I got the Boss, I almost got. Have you played the Ed Sheeran looper?
No.
It's actually really good.
Is it pretty sweet?
I really liked it. It was very easy and very intuitive. He has like a one with just 2 pedals, but it was honestly like one of the easiest intuitive probably best out of the box.
Nice.
Wow, I can actually do this, and I almost regret not getting it because then I got a fancy one. I'm like, oh crap! Now that's a lot of stuff I have to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually impressed with that. That's
it's
really
a lot
cool.
of fun. I encourage people, you know, like a lot of people think that they need a band or you have to have other people. And really, I did it out of necessity. I couldn't afford to tour with a band. So I was like, well, let's just go. And I started playing weekly gigs doing it and just got better and better and found ways to make the audio better. And we do pre-mix everything so I can loop more than just 2 instruments. And I'm very lucky that Milan runs my sound because some people don't know how to deal with it, but she does.
That's huge.
So,
I mean, the fact that it's just you two and having, I think that's such an integral part of, if you can have it, I mean, that's right. That's the perfect situation, whether it's you as a solo artist or a band, ideally having someone who runs your sound and cares and knows what they're going for. Sure. If you can have it. Then also the merch thing, right? That's one of the worst situations is when you're just losing that business because it's a performance or, you know what I mean? Like to sort of have someone there that's
someone there to do it, run
awesome.
it. Yeah. And I mean, our tours are fully funded by merch. T-shirts are funding these tours. Like our baseball caps fund these tours. So
is she a musician as well? And how did you guys meet? How long have you been together?
We actually met at a blues jam forever ago.
Cool.
This year will be 15 years. And we got married a few years back. And she is a musician. She played with her family for a long time. She's from New Zealand, so they would do a lot of traditional Maori performances. She's a great bass player, an incredible singer, but she does not like to do it on stages. So she likes being behind the scenes. She makes all my music videos, my website. You know, it's really lucky that we both have these artist brains, but we both want to work for this career. So
yeah, that's amazing. That's great because for one person to do it all is just it's too much.
And for 2 people, it's too much, you know.
It's still too much, right?
And it's been I've been playing professionally about 17 years, and this is the first great independent label that has worked with me and believed in me. And now I have a marketing team, a publicity team. We've got a booking team, and it's a dream come true, you know. Like I was ready to hang it up in 2020. My career definitely took a huge hit when that all happened.
Sure, yeah.
And we're still recovering from it. But to have Midtopia believe in me and fund our vinyl records and say, all we got to do is make this money that we put into it back. So it's a 0% loan they give the artists. Wow. And then we get to keep 100% of the profits after that, which is unheard of in this industry.
That's amazing.
It's unheard of.
Or did you ever do like Kickstarters or anything like that? I've tried that. I know a lot of artists that have done that. I know that's another, and Patreon, and there's different ways to try to.
Yeah, my first band, we just put all the funds we would make, and we made the album in 3 days, right? And then my second record I made by myself, but also had some band members on it. That one I made in 6 days. And then Fool's Gold was a huge undertaking because I'm like, nope, I don't want anyone else to play the instruments. It's just me. We did this cool sound exploration, so it took longer. So each album has cost significantly more, where we need to ask for funding, where we need to have our fans step up. And I've done campaigns actually just on my social media, on my Venmo. I'm just like, hey, I need this money to film a music video. My fans had that money to me in 3 hours.
That's amazing.
It really was, So to know that we have the support still is just amazing. It keeps us going. Yeah.
I'm looking deep in thought there.
Well, no, I'm actually looking for something here. But while I do that, Vic, this is your alien opportunity.
Yeah. So there's a lot of buttons on this console, so I pressed the wrong one. And we were talking about the T-shirt with Kitten being beamed up into space, and we were talking about Skinwalker Ranch. And you had mentioned that you were out there. You got to go take a look, right?
Yep.
Walk around, check it out. I know what you're saying by going to the desert and there's a different vibe, and because out in Joshua Tree, California out there, I've been out there, and it's kind of it's different, and so I can only imagine that Skinwalker has its own totally just creepy different vibe itself. And you were saying that something even there was like some after effects or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, totally. We just had an amazing day there. It was gorgeous, but we got a tour of all the different hot spots, and the caretakers were talking about hot spots and like what happens here. Here's where they found a mutilated cow. Here's where this thing happened. And at one point, the caretakers had a dog that lives there, and he's been there way back when Robert Bigelow used to be on the ranch running his tests.
Right.
And so it's the most studied paranormal hotspot on the planet. And there's been government funding behind studying this ranch for what it's known for. And so at one point, this dog stopped us in our tracks and wouldn't let us cross. And, all of us are just like, okay, like this is what he says. We're not going to go against what the dog wants. And you could just kind of feel it, right? But for me, I ended up having some pretty severe nightmares for weeks afterwards.
Wow.
And I don't really have nightmares. I might have your occasional anxiety dream where I forget all my instruments for a gig or something like that. But these were like pretty like vivid, pretty brutal, vicious. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, cold sweat, nightmare. And it happened for almost 3 weeks after we were there. And then talking to the caretakers, they're like, hey, so did you guys feel anything? What happened? This was like a few weeks after.
Yeah.
And I just brought it up. I was like, I don't know if it's related. And she's like, it's related. That happens. That's a thing that happens to people who come here. And so I just couldn't get the whole experience out of my head. And I asked my designer, shout out to her, Gabriella Hunter. She does an incredible job. I was like, here's the concept. Okay. Aliens in the woods. And and that's all I told her. And she came up with this amazing design of UFO in the woods with the beautiful trees, the evergreen trees, with a little kitty cat being sucked up. And here's the personal part to that story is that my cat was unfortunately sick and dying at that point. And she went to the other side. And so that is her forever memorialized on my t-shirt. She's getting taken away to the other side.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You got to do that with the animals. Like you got to you got to put them into your music. Yeah.
Yep. Totally. They're my inspiration, little babies.
Man, I really want to go to the Skinwalker place now.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but you can't.
I was going to say,
not a
like,
thing.
Yeah. It's not a public tourist thing, right?
No, it's not. No, you have to have permission.
Private
We had to
ranch.
have clearance.
Oh,
we
crap.
had to sign non-disclosure agreements about things.
What a cool thing to do, Vic. We got to figure this out.
And we did it because the caretakers were huge fans of our local radio station, KRCL. And I would sometimes DJ there. So I got to go down and we made an episode for Halloween and put it up online for that. So that was awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with field recordings, getting the interviews with the caretakers, and then, talking about our own experiences at the campfire afterwards. But there's a really cool little campground right next to it called UFO Campground, and it is right next to the mesa, and you can stay there and film and do all your investigating from there. So, yeah, it's worth a trip.
Yeah. When you were there, who were you there with? When you were saying you were with a group and the dog warned you,
with our radio station friends, and then the caretakers. So, yeah.
I'm a little surprised. Were these like white people?
Were they white people?
Yeah. Because, usually that's the joke, right? The white people just don't heed those warning signs like in the horror movies, right? They're just like, I know this dog is trying to tell me not to keep going, but let's go see what's going on over here.
But see, we did heed the warning signs. And we did not go because he said no. So that's the thing. But I do want to talk a little bit about, like, if we're going to go there, let's talk about it. Like,
now I opened up a can of worms. Oh, boy.
Well, it's good. It is sacred land, right?
Yeah.
It is sacred Ute land down there. And, they don't really love these white guys with their rockets, launching rockets and bombs. And, a lot of the locals don't love the TV show down there because they are creating kind of chaos in what is normally a very quiet, like, respectful place. And so if I didn't feel negative energy myself, but I definitely think doing some of that stuff causes negative energy. And I think that, if we want to respect the land and the people whose land it is, we wouldn't be lighting rockets and bombs and
Well, that's that's like some poltergeist stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I saw that when I was a kid. I'm like, no, I'm not messing with that.
Yeah.
And we have to respect where we come from. We have to respect the land, and definitely, the Ute tribe. It's very, very sacred to them. So if you do go down there, please be respectful.
Of course, yeah,
definitely. And I would just say that to the listeners too. Like, we don't always think about that, but like, you're in someone's sacred home.
Oh, it's just awful. And I don't want to say this is only young people, like today's generation. And every generation is gonna be like today's kids, and it's always everyone's the worst. And then you start getting older, and you're like, oh, I see why my grandparents were mean and angry. Everyone just like, oh, these kids these days, and they're so spoiled. But it is like, it's so disgusting. There's no other way to put it. The lack of respect that you do see, and obviously most people are not like this. This is the exception, but it's just like, God, how can anybody be like the people that are just taking selfies at a Holocaust museum or, degrading stuff, it's just like, oh my God,
Well, and that's what the whole, this whole plague of having your camera and needing to take selfies everywhere or geotag where you are. And I think people don't even realize they're doing it.
I don't either.
It might come across as disrespectful. And so that's why I do like to talk about it. Just be like, hey, think about where you are.
Well, I mean,
but did I take a selfie at the ranch? Of course I did.
Yeah.
You got to play the game sometimes.
Right.
But,
yeah. I think
absolutely.
it's, be tasteful about it. And but I know, and you're probably right. I think the younger generation, that's what worries me a little bit. I don't think, we're a resilient species. And I think I would like to hopefully think that we'll evolve and still have human connection in this next, AI chapter of our existence. But I wonder sometimes that the younger generation, the people who didn't grow up like we did before all of this, don't know the difference maybe between what a genuine human connection is an artist and what something AI just spit out. Or and I don't think. And one thing that bugs me too is like, I'm all about. That's one beautiful thing. Ideally, about our system and country is the idea that you can peacefully protest, right, and voice your opinion, and I have no problem with that. But it bothers me sometimes. I think it gets convoluted with people who I'm like, are you there because you believe in this cause, or are you there because you want to be seen at this thing and you're taking pictures? Look at me, I'm so I'm so hip, and look, I'm saving the world. It's like, I don't know. I'm not some people are genuinely, of course, they're genuinely passionate about these things, and they're they're where their heart is. But I do think anytime these kind of things happen, I feel like in the modern world, it's just like, oh my gosh, this thing is trending. Let's all go be a part of this. And it's like, do you even know what are you doing?
I'll counter that though, because I'll say this, like, some of those kids might be going because their best friend is going, or it might be trending to go, but they're going to hear something that does change their life. They're going to see someone that represents them. They're going to see something that changes them. And I know this because I was young. I was like 15 at my first protest. And like, I was going because I could leave work early to do it, right? And I'm like, sweet, I got to leave work. But then I went down there and saw the passion and saw these people and decided to, wait, I can make a change. So, and as teaching youth and working with these kids, we got to give them more credit. They're real. They understand real stuff, real music. And when you put these real instruments in their hands, they have this like cool, like, whoa, I have the power. And it's really cool to see. So
agreed, 100%. And I do, and I still think I don't really see that waning too much. And things seem to keep coming back, like guitar. Things spike and come back around. And there's a popularity with that. So there was that huge Guitar Hero phase, huge.
Totally.
Where kids would. That's around the time I started teaching. I mean, I would have that hasn't happened in decades, but I remember in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, right? We'd get all these kids would be like, well, on Guitar Hero, it's like, dude, this is not Guitar Hero. This is an actual real guitar. Like, we're not talking about green and orange here.
No.
Like, it was so weird. But now that's kind of like, okay, that was a trend, that was a thing, and now people are back. And so, totally, 100%. And I think, what it comes down to, whether you're a part of something I think there's a balance of following your heart and a balance of education, right? Like if we're gonna, like, whether that's music or a social cause or anything, and I think that's just anybody who's really passionate about it, you're gonna gravitate towards that, and you're going to do that, right? So
knowledge is power. You know?
and the other ones will kind of fall by the wayside, you know, the fly-by-nighters or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Well, what got you? I wonder what it's like. I mean, you think of anybody else in the world, right, or the country. Like you think of Texas, and you're thinking, oh, well, Skunk and Vic are going to get on here in cowboy hats and start. They're going to ride to the podcast on a horse and fire in their 6-shooters in the air, right? And we think about, you think about Utah, and you think Mormons, right? So you think very conservative, religious in that, in that aspect. So. Did you feel what was that environment like where you grew up? Did it feel very sort of restrictive and conservative with that Mormon culture, or not so much?
Well, I thought now would be a good time to introduce you guys to these pamphlets I have about polygamy. Would you like to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, so I grew up in Utah, yes. I actually grew up Catholic in Utah and went to Catholic school my whole life.
You poor thing.
I know.
I can relate to you. I went to a couple of years of Catholic school.
Yeah, I went from kindergarten all the way to the end of high school.
Oh, wow, okay.
In a way, though, in Utah, it was a blessing because public school is pretty much Mormon school.
Right.
In Salt Lake City, when I was growing up, was about 70% Mormon, maybe less, but nowadays it's about 50-50. So it still is a struggle, I'm a queer, non-binary woman. I play guitar, I play loud, I swear like a sailor, I ski, I do all these things that, women and girls shouldn't be doing. So constantly my life, what has been like, this is me. I'm going to take up this space and I belong here. And I still have to do it, right? I'm still going to continue to have to do this being in the music industry in a very male-dominated, situation. So, but for me, I think that it gave me resilience. It's given me drive. It's given me passion. Like I am fired up to exist and be loud and proud. And I was lucky that I grew up Catholic in Utah. Very, very rare. So...
Was that in any way when did you discover your sexuality, like, and identify as gay? Always, or
ever since I was little, I used to cross dress as Elvis at the age of 9. I used to slick my hair back. I cut all my hair off at the age of 10. Did I know that was sexuality? No, because it's not sexuality. It's actually more of a gender expression. Mm-hmm. Sexuality doesn't come till later, right? Till your teenage years and you're figuring that out. I knew I was different. I obviously had to suppress and oppress myself. And I think I denied myself a long time. And I did not really come out and say the words, I am queer, until I was, how old was I? 26 years old.
Okay.
And so I did live in the closet for quite some time and had long braids like Willie Nelson. And, maybe other people knew I was gay, but I was not ready to admit it fully myself. But at the age of 9, I was. Mm-hmm. And I think where that came in is like, you go through puberty, you don't want to be your individual self anymore. You don't want to stand out. You want to just kind of slip back and be like everybody else. And so that was a hard time in my life because I was not happy. I was not fully myself. And then, go ahead.
Well, I think back to, I think you're kind of like an early millennial, right? Like kind of.
I was born in 84. So
right. Okay.
40 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of caught that tail end of the analog world, or whatever we want to call it, just a hint pre-internet, right?
Totally.
And very different world, but like it's interesting. And I mean, obviously, I don't want to pretend I could live in anyone else's shoes. And I think so many people are so quick to pass judgment, just as a blanket judgment. But what I've noticed, and I think is true for most people, especially I would say in this country, even though it's sometimes doesn't seem this way, I do think when you really sit down and you talk to people face to face, or in this capacity, and you find out you got more common ground than not, right? And I mean, I think that's such an important thing for all of us to always be aware of and not be so ready to just be hostile and go at each other's throats. It's like, man, we all want the same things. We all want the same love and happiness and respect, and that shouldn't be so damn hard. But my point, where I was going with this is just the way things change and just the way society is. And, you know, it's not right, but it's also sometimes a little hard to hold, you know, let's take grandparents or something, right? They were just raised with such a different set of values. It's like, you know, it's they're probably not going to be on board with what our where we're at now, and the younger generations. It's like commonplace. It's like, yeah, who cares? Whatever, live your life. I don't care. Like most people, I think, right?
Most people.
But just looking, and you know, there's always going to be the shitty bigots and all that. But like, unfortunately, right? But when I think back to the '80s, I would hope, and I'm asking you this question: does it seem? And I know there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of, you know, it's a very volatile time and all this kind of stuff. But I think social media, you know, makes that more intense than that. Didn't exist back in the 80s. But in the 80s, it did seem like nowadays I feel, this is just me being a straight white guy going like, if someone's like, I'm gay, I'm like, cool, I don't care. Like none of that's, it just, who cares? Live your life, right? But in the 80s, it was different. Like the conditioning was very different. It was still very much like, oh, he's gay. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't just say in the 80s, though. You know what I mean? I'm a challenge.
Well, 90s, whatever. Like, but my question is,
even today,
do you not see the progress though? Do you still feel? I mean, there's always going to be a percentage of people, but do you feel more accepted? Widely accepted now than maybe you did a few decades ago is my question.
That depends who you're asking. It depends what part of the country I'm playing music in. It depends on what city or town I'm in. And it really is just a basis, you know, and I don't want to sound like we haven't come far, because we have. Right. We've come very far. And I definitely see way more queer youth being empowered to come out and be themselves, and I see less bullying, I see less like targeting. But then you look at the man who's running our country, and what are they doing? They're bullying and targeting 1% of the American population, and not just a little bit. They are all out assaulting trans people in this country. And I just think no, not until we are all free, or we can all exist as ourselves and be supported and safe. We still got so much work to do. So yes, for you white guys sitting there, you see progress. But for me as a non-binary woman, I see progress, but I also see that there's some really scary stuff happening, and we have to be loud. We have to fight against it. We have to say, you know what? Our existence is a resistance no matter what. So I know a lot of kids that are scared. There's been suicide rates that have gone up since all this has happened. Our most marginalized communities are affected the most by this. And it truly does break my heart, because we are just trying to be. We were born this way. We are just trying to be. And a lot of trans people have a medical condition. It's called intersex. And a lot of people have never even heard about that, where you are born with both parts. And a doctor, when you are a baby, decides, well, you're going to be this. And they get it wrong more times than they don't.
Let's back up. I'm really curious about this topic now that you brought that up. Like, are we talking about, and forgive me if this is an offensive term, because this is the only term that I know in terms of like I don't know if it's medical, but used to think of that term hermaphrodite, meaning both sexual parts, right?
Yes. And
so are you saying that people are actually born with both chromosomes, or with both sexual organs? And then in that moment, the doctor makes that decision.
Yes. I encourage you to just look it up and do a little bit just to hear about it, because I didn't know.
What's it called?
I didn't know it was a real thing. It's called intersex. INTERSEX. And people are either born with ovaries and they have other things, or they're born with both parts, or they're born with different things. Like, humans aren't just the one thing and that thing, just like we are born with disabilities, or we're born with different things, when I'm diabetic, right?
Yeah, so, that makes sense. We're all different. Our DNA is different. Yeah.
And I just think that gender is kind of a construct that's been forced upon us, where we shouldn't be scared. We should just be trying to seek out information and learn more. And that's all it is. It's like, yes, we are here. We are going to continue to create music and kick ass doing it. And we're going to use our platforms to show the youth that there are successful non-binary women in the music industry doing it.
Explain when you identify as non-binary, like what?
I I use she, they pronouns, so I am okay with being called she, her, woman. I still identify with being a woman, but I'm not always identifying with what society expects of women or what they think a woman should be.
It's more of like
And
so it's more of a role expectation.
not just a role, it's gender. Actually, when you identify it's your gender expression. It's nothing to do with sexuality. I am a lesbian. I'm in a lesbian relationship. I would call it a queer relationship, but I identify as a non-binary. It has nothing to do with sexuality whatsoever. And it just means like, sometimes I'm a little masculine, right? So I like to wear men's clothes. I like to, do things that people might deem as a masculine thing, where it's like, you know what? Why do we have to say this or that? Why can't it just be both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it really in my mind, this stuff just boils down to just respect of your neighbor, right? Your country person, whatever. And to me, I don't really have a problem with that. I think it works both ways. It's like, please don't jump down my throat if I make a mistake and I don't know. Now, anyone who's doing it intentionally though, like that's just unnecessary bullying. There's no place for that. And I think it works on both sides, right? I think there's a way to politely, address these issues as an adult. And if someone wants to, behave as a adolescent about it, well, now you're putting it on you. You're the one that has a problem, right? And I'm hoping we're making progress in that. I think a lot of people do try, for sure.
Absolutely. And I just suggest people look it up on their own. We have this cool thing called the World Wide Web where you can learn a lot and not just read what pundits are yelling in their TVs about people, and also go to your local coffee shops, get to know your community. Like, I have met so many different people by just going to
that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Local businesses, boom, that's where you make the changes.
And as a musician, right? I mean, this. I mean, it's like this in any walk of life, but I think particularly when you're working in artistic endeavors, because you're going to inevitably play with so many different people and meet so many different people. And I've toured with all kinds of different people. And I remember having touring with the trans person, and there was everyone was like super comfortable and it was really cool. But I actually just felt like I never felt uncomfortable. I would, we don't really keep up or talk or anything, but on the tour, I considered them to be a good colleague. You know why? Because we actually had similar background. And I was like, you know what? I understand, or to the best of my ability, I was like, I think I can see why you felt the way you did. And, but we had similar Catholic backgrounds and this and that. But it's not awkward to me unless someone wants to make it awkward. And that's just speaking for myself. I wish everybody was like that.
Yeah, same, big same. And I think a lot of people just don't want to be asked personal questions, right? And it's just like, it's more so just about trying to get to know someone. And for me as an artist, I've been an open book my entire time. I've been who I am, and I'm unashamed about what I fight for. But I realize there's major privilege in that. And there was many artists that came before me that couldn't do that. So I'm thankful to exist in this day and age where I can do that. So Skunk, I do think we've come further in that aspect.
Well, and I'm thinking back to the 80s and stuff where it was such a big deal, or people would just flat out be like, people were shocked when, a bunch of women or whatever, like, Liberace's gay, really?
Right.
I mean, right?
Come on.
Right?
Look at his clothes.
Yeah,
or
Rob, or Rob Halford from Judas Priest, and it's like, wasn't this guy just like, how are you people not getting this?
Doesn't honestly, he just have the best voice ever?
Oh my God,
amazing! That's like the point.
Let's be honest. I mean, some of the absolute greatest songwriters throughout and musicians and singers, performers throughout history are gay. I mean, Freddie Mercury, Elton John. I mean, who doesn't like these guys? They're phenomenal. But the persecution that they must have had to face, that I would assume that the modern artist is probably not getting as heavy a dose of, because now I feel like if someone's like, I'm an artist and I'm Billie Eilish or whoever, right? And I'm gay. Oh, cool. Whatever. We don't care. But and it was always like, you'd always hear about so-and-so came out and it was this big deal. Right. But I think for a lot of people it was like, okay, we kind of knew that. Who cares? So, I mean, it's nice. It's such it's interesting to me because I feel like we're in this really polarized time.
Yes.
And we are.
And it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. But also I look back and I go like, man, it is unfortunate because there's so much progress, and then you get in these positions where it's just a few bad apples, right?
Yeah.
Or a few extremists, like, and then it gets spun out of control where you start thinking like, oh my God, every white guy hates gay people, and every whatever hates everybody else. It's like, that's just not the way it actually is, man.
No.
You know,
I like to remind people, let's take it back to Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Let's take it back to Sesame Street. Like, we do all get along. We were all born on this planet. We are all trying to survive this crazy shit show.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, we're holding on. And I think that we as human beings we get shit done better when we work together.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's live our lives and enjoy life, and let's make that the focus instead of trying to strip people of human rights. That's where I stand. Yeah.
See, we all agreed. I think we've come out with a great positive message. Go us.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about your diabetes for a minute. And this is something that you've had. Is this a life thing, or?
Yeah, I had it since the age of 10. I've got type 1 diabetes. I am hooked to an insulin pump that keeps me alive. And,
wow.
You know, I have to do carb counting with everything I eat and give insulin and make sure my blood sugars stay nice and in the middle. And it's come with complications. You know, it's caused me to be disabled. I have tumors in both of my hands. So I relate with the nerve pain, you know, affecting playing. You know, this has affected my playing, obviously, a lot. Depends on the day. And yeah, I mean, it's made me not take my life for granted. Like, I really do have that feeling of like, well, this could be my last time. So I better enjoy where I'm at and really just take it in. And, you know, but also at the same time, damn the man, my insulin shouldn't cost as much as it does. I shouldn't have to fight insurance companies.
Not going to argue with you on that.
Yeah,
one.
It's been a struggle my entire life. And so, yeah, it's another reason why I think I am politically active, is because it's life or death for me. So
yeah, literally. Yeah, that's a really good point. Vic, your turn. When I space out, you just aliens.
Well, how about I shout out? I do have this song, Matchstick, and this one was written for my friend who is a disabled rights activist, Sarah Johnson. And she was the one who said, you're disabled, Talia. Like, you have this going on, and it's okay to admit that. And it's okay to say that I can't do this, you know? And she giving me that power just really changed my life. And unfortunately, we lost her a couple years back, and she had this theory called matchstick theory, where you burn all your matches when you're disabled. They don't come back. You burnt your matches for the day. You don't have anything left. But sometimes burning those matches is worth everything, because you existed, you had a good time, you danced with your friends, you shone bright. And so that's what I wrote that song about. And it's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. And it's available now. Fans can get that on a 45 record right now before it hits the streaming platforms.
What's the best way to get that? Your website?
Yep, just myname.com, taliakeys.com, TALIAKEYS.
I can tell you've been doing this for a while. You're good.
I'm a part-time radio DJ. So,
yeah,
you know,
right.
I love
it's
it.
funny,
Yeah.
you know, speaking of this kind of stuff, we had a good friend that was one of our early guests, this guy, Justin Bridges, that used to live up in Portland, and he was an activist, very into, he's actually bringing this thing back called Hemp Stock. It's going to be here in Austin in May. But he was in a situation where, wrong place, wrong time, some kind of protest. I don't know. I don't remember the details, but beaten so severely he was in a wheelchair for years. And now he's got oh my God, his daughter is just insane. She's like 7, like the biggest rock star I've ever met.
Cool.
And he's a radio guy too. I went and did his show, and his radio voice is so just like, you know. But yeah, he's always out there fighting for everybody, and he's a huge, advocate for so many things. And he's, awesome. I mean, I love that, man, because it's passion. It's really someone that's just like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going for. And I think coming back to diabetes or any kind of illness or disability, it kind of just automatically gives you a fire and a drive that you might not have otherwise. So it's interesting how that works, and a lot of the people that suffering the most too, you don't know. Yeah. I've come across people too, and it's so that comes back to it's so easy for us to look at each other at face value and judge somebody and go, oh, well, that person has everything because they're rich. actually there have diabetes though too. You know what I mean? I feel like everyone I've met, there's always something. We all have our struggles. We just don't see them.
We're kind of told not to talk about them, right? We're told that you don't need to bring that up, or you don't need to be a burden on someone, or say even just men with depression. It's a plague. And I keep telling my fellas, y'all gotta express yourselves. You gotta please, start helping each other. Reach out when you're not doing good. And mental health is our physical health, and I think a lot of us forget that. And so
I find it a little interesting as someone from our, the Generation X millennials sort of time, because I think it's different now. That stuff is talked about, and it's certainly not any better. I mean, it's just there's so much mental illness, but I feel like I don't know if you relate to this, Vic, or if you both relate to this in any way. There's a part of me and don't take this literally in the man thing, but I think just the overall mentality of that was the thing, right? It's just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and go, and don't be a little bitch. It's you're a man, and and that's all just walk it off and be tough and don't cry and don't be a sissy, and you start to go but now it's everything's got a definition of mental illness. So part of me is going these were all my problems. I'm ADD and I'm OCD and I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. And I do think there's, and I mean, I've suffered with depression and all that most of my life, like so many people haven't. I don't want to discount that that's a real thing, but I also don't want to lean on that and be well, I have all these problems. So it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of weird. It's like where I'm going how much of this is real am I going to use as a crutch or an excuse? And how much of it is just am I really do I really have these? And I wonder how many people feel that am I, how do you get diagnosed? How do you know if you're bipolar or this or that? And now there's all these self-diagnosis tests too. So I feel like it just makes it really hard to know what's real, man. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's why I encourage people talking more. The more we talk to each other about it, the more we can explore maybe this is just coming from this. Or maybe it really is something that you should go see a doctor about, or, and I saw a therapist for years to help me with a lot of the childhood trauma I had. I grew up with a drug addict dad who was not part of my life. And, a lot of that trauma when he passed away from an overdose, was really tough on me. And then just being queer, I needed that extra help, and there was no shame in me telling someone I need the help. And it did change my life, and it made everything I can recognize my patterns. I can see when I'm being an ass, and I can be okay, don't do that. And, but yeah, I mean, we're human. We're full of emotion. And that's what this next record is about. It's about emotions. There's a song about suicide called Hold On. And, there's just some really deep, intense songs on this album. And I feel like it's my most vulnerable that I've been. So I hope people can relate and just realize we're all in this together. We're not alone. So.
Beautiful. Yes. I'm just looking at some questions I had written down earlier, but I think we covered most of this stuff. We talked about, I do want to ask just from instruments, singers, guitar, drummers, whoever, who are some of your favorite influences, favorite artists? And we're going to segue into making a playlist.
Oh, sick.
So we can kind of, you have some of your songs and then just some of your favorite artists, right? Whoever they may be.
Yeah.
So,
I got to shout out to the godmother of rock and roll, Sister Rosetta. I have her up here on the wall right there.
Yeah, you got an awesome...
Yes, this is my music studio. This is where I write, create. This is where we played shows during COVID. This is my sanctuary. My number one trusty steed, my favorite guitar behind me there. But yeah, I would say Sister Rosetta is a huge influence. Lately, I have just been absolutely obsessed with Sierra Farrell. I love what she's doing with the Americana and folk music scene, and really cool stuff. You should check her out if you don't know who she is. And then I'm going to say it, Beyonce. I saw Beyonce 2 years ago in concert. Number one concert of my life. I have not been able to say that, and I've seen so many great concerts. I've seen Roger Waters. I've seen, some pretty incredible top 10 artists, but Beyonce took the crown. It was one of the best shows of my life. And just her artistry, her mastery, what she's done with the last couple records, this whole theme, the idea of bringing an album back that tells a story, I just am I'm totally obsessed. So
that comes back to the Pink Floyd thing we touched on earlier. I mean, I'm such an album guy. I can't tell you how much time. So excited to be back in the studio, so to speak, creating new music and this and that. And like, I spent so much time just like staring at song titles and thinking. I put them in different orders in iTunes, and I'm just like, I gotta get the flow. I mean, that stuff matters, man. Like, you think about stuff, and it's like, I know this is an opening track, or I might have a track that's been sitting around for a decade. I'm like, but that's got to be a last track. It's a last track. You know exactly what I mean. Like, I'm a super album conceptual guy. Singles are hard.
The thing is, like, singles. You're just like, well, here's this single standalone thing, but what's the purpose? Where does it fit in the story, the art? Yeah. And I love that I was encouraged to create a whole record and release it on vinyl, because that's what people are going to sit down. They're going to light their incense. They're going to turn the lights down. So yeah, I'm stoked. And yeah, Pink Floyd, huge influences. You know, another one that I would say is Janelle Monáe. I absolutely love Janelle Monáe's music. Their latest record, just off the hook. So yeah,
it never fails. Like I was just. Oh gosh, I just listened to some. Like I didn't, I guess, realize. Just stumbled across. I guess Lady Gaga just put out a new album.
Yep. Yeah.
Man, those first few tracks are bangers.
They're bangers.
I'll be honest with you. I was listening to your music, right? And last night I somehow came across that, and then like today I had to like pull myself away from like Lady Gaga's new album. Like, all right, I gotta go listen to Talia's stuff, and then I completely forgot that I had a link to the new record anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I love about this podcast is we discover stuff we would never, not even just the artists themselves, but then just talking to the artists, you hear all these influences. And I've gone, and you know, I was on, Ruthie Kraft had some playlists. It was all these pop artists, Vic, and I was like listening to that the other day, and like, it's just every time someone's on here, they'll throw out names, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then I discover something else. I'm like, oh, this is incredible, you know? Like, so
really cool.
This playlist idea that Vic came up was really great.
I think so too, you know? Good job, Vic.
I try.
Let's start with your songs. If we were going to put some of your songs on a playlist that are actually streaming, right? Obviously, we can't do anything off the new record yet. But what would be some songs that you would say, hey, check this out? Like this pretty good introduction.
Well, I think my song off the last record, Lessons, "Come Back Down," is one of my favorites off that album. And then the other one, if you want another one off that's got a totally different vibe, is "Born in the Light," and that one's got a cool reggae vibe with the horn section and. Yeah, so those two off my last record. And then any of those new covers, you know, like I'm really proud of those cover songs. I played all the instruments, like I said, and Ryan played the keys. So those ones are fun too.
Did you say Born in the Light? Was that the other one you said off the late?
Born in the Light.
And then I'm going to put the two that I mentioned on there too.
Need You to Care and The Two You Want. Yeah, that's great. I'm just honored. Thanks again, you know, we're stoked to share our music. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we'll get a good at least 5 of your tracks in there, and then let's say, can you pick songs? You were going to give us. I know this is super hard too, but like a Sister Rosetta song. Can you pick songs from some of these artists?
So Sister Rosetta, "Strange Things Are Happening Every Day." It's one of my faves. If you can find that one.
I do this every week, Vic. I should be writing on my. I scribble with a pen. Just this horrific handwriting. I'm actually going to write this on my laptop because every time I go to make the playlist, I'm like, oh God, Sister Rosetta. It's just like, and I'm like, I'm just typing it in with like an S and being like, is it the string song?
Strange Things Are Happening.
So you already got it right. I looked at. I couldn't even read it immediately. It's like strings. Whoops.
And then for Beyonce, I love the song "Daughter." It's really incredible off the newest record. And then Sierra Farrell, if you want to write her down, I really like the song "Chitlin Cookin' Time in Cheatham County."
I mean, you're automatically going to listen to that just because you see the freaking title, man.
Yeah, Chitlins, come on. Y'all know what I'm talking about, Chitlins in
hell
Austin,
yeah, dude.
Come on.
Oh, man, we were, I was just out in Anaheim. Oh, my God. is it Roscoe's? I can't remember that. There's this place. I think they got a couple locations. It's like it's like soul food, man. It was so freaking good.
Good stuff. Love it.
I don't even need to know the whole title. I'm just gonna type in Serial Girl Chitlins and it'll come up. So
it will. Yeah.
All right, what do you got? What do you got for Pink Floyd?
Woo. I mean, it's so hard because like I've seen The Wall. Like I saw Roger Waters perform The Wall. So,
yeah, I saw that too. That was
it's
incredible.
Like Another Brick Part 2 I cover with my band. It's one of my favorite guitar solos. So.
Yeah.
Let's do
You know
it.
what I loved about that? And I don't know if you ever watched SNL back then. I mean, you might have been pretty young still when G.E. Smith was the guitar player. Do you know who G.E. Smith is?
With Roger, yeah. He was still the guitar player when I saw him. Yeah.
I mean, he was on Saturday Night Live back in the day, so I knew him from that. And I always loved G.E. Smith. When I saw The Wall and he introduced, I couldn't see like all that well. I mean, we're kind of off to the side and you could kind of see that, far away. And he came up at the top of the wall and did the Comfortably Numb solo. And I was like, dude, is that? It was so good and so I was like, is that David Gilmour? Oh, my God, this is so perfect. And then at the end, he's introducing the band. He's like, G.E. Smith on guitar. I was just like, oh, my God, this is amazing. It was so cool.
Well, it was at that same tour. That's awesome.
It must have been, Like, when was that? It's probably been 10 years at this point.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yep.
You mentioned the Beatles. What about a Beatles tune?
I love Honey Pie. So
Honey Pie. That's like a White Album deep cut, isn't it?
Yes, I love the White Album. Like I was obsessed with that album as a kid.
Honey Pie is a great song. That's the that just dawned on me. That's the kind of vaudeville.
Yes.
Sort of. Oh man.
Paul McCartney, like jazzy. Yeah.
That is such a good choice. Good on you, man. Honey Pie is a great song.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's some weird. Oh yeah, Elvis.
Ooh, okay, Elvis. I mean, it's so hard, but I would say like I gotta go old school and go with Heartbreak Hotel because that was the song I used to sing as a kid, and I used to dress up as Elvis, cross dress as Elvis, and so
you were like the Bruno Mars of Salt Lake City.
I'll take it. Bruno's badass. I mean, I also love Silk Sonic. You can throw a Silk Sonic. You can leave or put Smoking Out the Window on there too. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah, that was another top 10 show was Silk Sonic. So love it.
Who else did we say here? I guess we got all those. Who else did we mention on this podcast, artist wise?
I think that was it.
You said something about Janis Joplin earlier. There was something, I don't know if it was on your website or something that I read about. Like, it was like if Janis Joplin meets Jimi Hendrix. That's kind of what I mean,
ever since I started singing at karaoke, people would be like, "You're Janis Joplin." And I would sing Bobby McGee. Like, I'd sing the hell out of that song. So, yeah, I love Janis. I think my favorite Janis song, though, is Try.
Okay, yeah, good. Something other than Bobby McGee.
Yes, exactly.
mix it up a little bit. We've all
I'm not
going
to pick Wagon Wheel, okay? We're not going to pick Wagon Wheel for the podcast, so.
What's is Hendrix a big influence, or?
Come on, yes,
what's a Hendrix tune you would throw in there?
I mean, I like Them Changes. I like when he was in the trio.
Nice. I like that you're not just going standard on the. I love these choices. These are great choices.
Thank you. Yeah.
What about Salt Lake City? Who are some artists that we might not have heard of from? Who's from Salt Lake City?
Donny Osmond. Don't you know? No, just kidding.
I celebrate the entire catalog.
Yes, that's right. I figured you did. No, we got some great bands in Salt Lake City. There's a lot of great scenes. I'm really digging this band called Die Shiny. They have some really cool music. There's another band called Mouth, MOWTH. They the incredible music. There's an artist named Mel Soul, MELSOUL. And she's incredible. I love this artist named Jazzy Olivo, JAZZYOLIVO. Yeah, I mean, it's everything. We got a great jazz scene. We got a great punk scene. We got a great hip hop scene. There's every jam.
Place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with oppression, you do get this underground, raw artistry. And so that's pretty sweet.
I mean, look what happened in, gangster rap, right? in LA and the NWA and all that, right?
Yeah.
It's just whole movement, you know.
Yep.
Seattle was just depressed by the weather, I guess, and they were it rains all the time. I also felt like with England too, right? Because it's just rainy and shitty, and
Just
it's like
rainy and
these guys
shitty.
just sat around writing masterpiece albums all the time.
But
Nothing else
also,
to do.
you know, maybe like the whole British Empire thing and people living in poverty, you know, and you look at the struggle in Ireland and some of the best protest music comes out of there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
I
you
just
go
think
back even
yeah.
before recorded music. I mean, I guess you go back to like Dickens and stuff. I mean, that's what he was writing about. You know, it was just the shitty, not even middle class, right?
The regime.
The chasm between the wealth and the poor.
Yeah. And we're continuing to see it today. So, we the people.
We the people, indeed. Well, cool. Anything you want to add? I mean, once again, why don't you just recap when the album drops, where people can find you and all that kind of stuff.
So the whole album is dropping on April 14th. That's when the vinyl record is coming out and people can order it online. We're going to have a very special where you can get a signed vinyl I have these really cool merch items that are rolling papers and rolling trays. I got one right here.
Oh, I saw that on the website. Yeah.
We got some rolling trays.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some papers. We got some matches for the song Matchstick. And so, you know, we're pushing that physical stuff first because that's what gets the money back into the artist's pockets.
Yeah.
And then the online will be dropping on May 30th.
Well, I love your merch.
April 14th.
Yeah, cool. And I love your merch too because it's really personalized. It's really cool.
Yes.
It's unique. It's different. That's cool.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I really care about it. So
It's got UFOs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've already got Vic, man. Vic's.
I mean, to me, the podcast is done. Once we started talking about UFOs, that I'm good. Yeah, I'll just disconnect.
Vic's just been sitting here ordering merch and looking at Roswell and shit like that. He's
Skinwalker.
Love it. I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Talia Keys, everybody, and wish you the best success with everything, your new album, and keep killing it out there. You're doing great.
Thanks a lot, fellas. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
And let's see.
Are we actually signed out, or are we just awkwardly sitting here?